Greetings. We're so happy you could join us for this broadcast. And I'm very happy because my co-host this month is a good friend of mine and a fellow worker, Brother Jim Mance. Now, Jim and I work together in the writing department, and Jim helps the writing department, Jim and his team, they help the writing department to keep track of all the projects that we have to work on. And do you have any idea how many that is? 241 at any given time. And Jim does a lot of other things as well. Well, Jim, we've got another project on hand this month, and that's to get this broadcast underway. So why don't you tell the folks at home just what they have to look forward to?
Well, David, this month we'll get acquainted with a family that raised their children to put Jehovah first in their lives. Let's look for points we can apply in our families. Later, our music video will emphasize the need to take the time to marvel at Jehovah's creation. And we'll visit the Writing Research Department. The brothers and sisters there help us to ensure that all our articles and videos are accurate.
You're going to enjoy this program, and this is the November 2017 program of JW Broadcasting. This month, I'd like to talk about the efforts Jehovah's organization is making to produce literature, publications, articles that are as accurate as possible. We're going to talk about accuracy of statement. Now first, what's the responsibility of the writer of the article? When a writer submits an article for publication, he is expected to supply references from reputable sources to back up the facts that he's included in his article. And our research department will use those references to check the accuracy of everything. Reliable, respected sources. What do we mean by a reliable source? Well, first of all, we go with encyclopedias, books, magazines, and then newspapers, basically in that order. We prefer encyclopedias over books, books over magazines, and magazines over newspapers, generally because newspaper editors have a hard time checking their facts. They have a very limited time in which to check their facts. So even encyclopedias, though, and books get updated, so we have to go with the latest edition of those. We have to make sure that our sources are reliable. Now, when a writer quotes an expert, our researchers will ask, who's this expert? What's his reputation? Is he working for a particular organization? Does this organization have an agenda? Is it a special interest group? If we find that the goals of the organization are questionable, we won't use the quote, even if it's a really good quote. Now, suppose that a writer wants to quote something from a book. In the reference material, he'll supply a photocopy of the quote in the book, but very often he'll give us 2 or 3 pages before the quote and 2 or 3 pages after as well. And that way, our researchers can examine the quote in context to make sure that what we're saying in print is really what the author of the quote had in mind. For example, an evolutionist might make a statement which, on the surface, appears to confirm his support of creation. Or perhaps an atheist will make a statement that seems to indicate that he believes in God. But when you examine the quote in context, you realize that that isn't what the author had in mind at all. We would never deliberately distort a quotation. We try very hard to use all of our quotations in context. Now, it's important to keep up with the very latest research. Something that was stated years ago as a fact may have been disproved. And the reason why is obvious. Someone may spend his entire life researching a very limited point in history, a very small point in history. And of course, if he spends so much time researching, he's going to uncover things. And so it's not surprising that from time to time we have to adjust our view of some historical points. We have to check check, check. And later on in this discussion, we're going to consider some examples of it. It'll be fun. You'll love it. Now, someone might ask, why is it necessary to be so picky, to be so fussy about accuracy? And an answer I like to give an experience that I heard about a few years ago. In Northern Europe, there was a man who accepted a Bible study from Jehovah's Witnesses. And when he was asked what motivated him to want to study, he said, "I read an article in your Awake magazine on trees." Now, I happen to be a bit of an expert on trees. And after I read the article, I said to myself, that article was so well documented. It was so precise. Any organization that is that careful when writing about trees is going to be just as careful when teaching me the Bible. And on that basis, he accepted a Bible study. Now, an area where great care needs to be taken is when we're quoting statistics. A newspaper may report on a disaster in a certain country and say that 10,000 people were killed in the disaster. Immediately, our researchers are going to ask, where did they get that statistic? They might phone the newspaper and ask for the source. And if the reporter can't confirm the statistic, our researchers will go to another source, a more official source, to get the correct statistic. Care is also taken when quoting personalities of the past. Now, suppose we want to quote something that Napoleon Bonaparte said, the French general. Well, being French, Napoleon spoke French. So if we're quoting it in English, that means that somebody translated the quote from French into English. But did he translate the quote correctly? Our researchers will probably go to the target language and research the quote in French or in another language. And more often than not, they find that what is presented in English doesn't accurately represent what the individual said at all. Now, as we age, our memory can play tricks on us, and our researchers are aware of that. Suppose that an elderly brother writes in his life story that he was baptized at a circuit assembly on a certain date. Our researchers may look at the date. They may check the date. And suppose they find that the date the brother gave fell on a Tuesday. Now, what are the chances that there was a circuit assembly on a Tuesday? There may have been, but they're going to check. Is the brother's memory failing him? If they can't confirm the date, they may ask someone to help the brother to remember the date more correctly, more accurately. Perhaps someone was baptized at the same circuit assembly as he was, and perhaps that person has an accurate note of the date. Our translators also go to great lengths to present accurate information to the brothers and sisters. Some time ago, the Awake magazine published an article on a very rare species of butterfly. Now, with all animals and insects, we provide our translators with the Latin name of the animal or the insect. And so our translators had the Latin name, but in one large country, they were unable to find the name in the vernacular. So what did they do? They phoned the country's leading university, and they were transferred to the biology department. And there, an expert gave them the name in the vernacular of that particular butterfly. But then he said, "Why is it that you're worrying so much about the correct name of this butterfly? If you got it wrong, there are only 2 of us in the whole country who would know the difference." Well, that opened the way to give a witness to this expert. Well, now, how well would you do in spotting a statement that is slightly off and making it more accurate? Would you like to find out? Of course you would. It'll be fun. So let's take a quiz that I'll call You Be the Editor. We're going to put a number of statements on the screen, and there's a problem with each one of them. Now, your job is to figure out what's wrong, why it is wrong, and then suggest how to fix it. It's going to be fun. Here's the first statement. According to the Smithsonian Knowledge Encyclopedia, the Egyptian Sphinx was constructed around 2550 BCE. The Egyptian Sphinx was constructed around 2550 BCE. Well, the problem is with the date, 2550. The global flood occurred about 200 years after that date. So what are the chances that the Sphinx survived the flood? Unless, of course, you think that that's how the Sphinx lost his nose. Now, these dates are good for you school children to keep in mind when you're writing reports. Sometimes you copy something from an encyclopedia and it gives a certain date, but think about the date of the flood, 2370, so that what you put in your report is as accurate as possible. Now, let's go on to the next one. In 29 CE, Jesus was baptized by a close relative, John the Baptizer. Well, 29 CE, that looks right. And we know that Jesus was baptized by John, that's right. So the problem must be close relative, and it is. Now, both of Jesus' parents were of the tribe of Judah, and their parents were of the tribe of Judah. But what about John's parents, Zechariah and Elizabeth? They were both of the tribe of Levi. So Elizabeth and Mary couldn't have been sisters. Could they have been cousins? Maybe. We can't even confirm that. And if they were, that would make Jesus and John second cousins. Well, is a second cousin a close relative? Some would say yes, some would say no. So it's safer just to say in 29 CE, Jesus was baptized by a relative, John the Baptizer. Here's one. Let's see if you can spot the error in this one. While most of the early Christians were held in little esteem in the community, a few enjoyed an elevated social status. For example, Luke was a respected physician. Well, the word we need to look at is respected. Now, we respect our doctors today, and our doctors have a very, very fine education. But was that the case in the first century? A reference work says this about first century physicians. Many doctors were freed Greek slaves. Hence, the social standing of doctors was quite low. Because recovery rates were so low, many people were skeptical or even scornful of doctors. Note this statement from the first century. Until recently, Diabolus was a doctor. Now, he's an undertaker. He's still doing as an undertaker what he used to do as a doctor. Not very flattering, is it? Well, in this case, we'd probably have to use a different example. Here's one. In 325 CE, the Roman Emperor Constantine established Christianity as the official religion of the Roman Empire. Well, 325 CE, that looks right. And Constantine, that looks right. But look at the word official religion. Constantine never established Christianity as the official religion of the Roman Empire. In 313, he did make it legal to be a Christian, but paganism was still one of the official religions. Apostate Christianity didn't become the official religion until 391 CE. This one is tricky. See how you do on this one. Imagine the Apostle Paul, during his first imprisonment in Rome, writing his letter to the Colossians from a dark prison cell. Well, if you look in the back of the New World Translation, you'll find that Paul did write his letter to the Colossians in Rome, and he was imprisoned at the time. So what's the problem? Dark prison cell. Where was Paul during his first imprisonment? In his own rented house. So the statement, dark prison cell, it's very dramatic, but it's all wrong. Here's an old one. While Paul generally preached to people of the nations, Peter was sent to the Jews. Contrary to popular belief, Peter was never in Rome. Some scholars used to make that statement, and they made it 60 years ago. Peter was never in Rome. But can we really say that? Can we be that dogmatic? Can we say that he didn't even spend vacation time or have a short visit in Rome? No, we cannot. So it would be more accurate to state there is no record that Peter ever lived in Rome. Here's one. We can have confidence in the Bible. It is mankind's oldest book. Mankind's oldest book. Years ago, some scholars believed that texts written by Adam, Noah, and others survived the flood and became part of the Bible. And if that were true, then we could say that the Bible is mankind's oldest book. Now here's a quote from Insight on the Scriptures, our Bible encyclopedia. It says, "There is no way to establish definitely that some of the histories mentioned in the book of Genesis were committed to writing before the flood." So today we might call the Bible one of mankind's oldest books, or the world's oldest modern book, as we do in one of our videos. Here's the last one. In 1517, Martin Luther nailed his 95 Theses on the door of a church in Wittenberg, Germany. Well, we've highlighted 95, but there are questions about the entire statement. Some modern scholars have done a tremendous, exhaustive study of the life of Martin Luther, and they claim that he couldn't have compiled all 95 of his theses by 1517. Others go so far as to claim that it never happened, that he never did nail his theses on the door of the church. Still others are just as adamant that it's all true, that it all happened. So, there's no consensus. We would have to modify the statement, "Some believe," or "it is believed," in order to make it more accurate and to acknowledge the fact that there are differences of opinion. Well, how did you do on the quiz? If you're like me, you've probably made some of those statements yourself at times. The statements were based on the best research we had at the time, but this is to illustrate the fact that times change. Research facilities improve. A scholar does exhaustive research on one point of history, and he uncovers things that were previously unknown. So we have to keep up. We have to check, check, check. And when credible research reveals that we have to adjust or tweak a statement that we made in the past, we do so without hesitation. Our goal is to provide information that is as accurate as possible, because we know that you brothers and sisters use this information. You quote it in the field ministry. You use it in your public talks. And so we want to make sure that our brothers are fed with the most accurate spiritual food possible. We're imperfect, of course, and we are going to make mistakes. And when we do, we have to correct them. Our goal is to do the best we can in all our imperfection. Well, how does it make you feel? I know how it makes me feel. I'm grateful that Jehovah's organization takes accuracy so seriously. It gives me confidence. And you know, I'm reminded of the description of another researcher as recorded at Ecclesiastes chapter 12 and verses 9 and 10. You know who this is. Ecclesiastes chapter 12 and verses 9 and 10. Not only had the congregator become wise, but he continually taught the people what he knew, and he pondered and made a thorough search in order to compile many proverbs. The congregator sought to find delightful words and to record accurate words of truth. Now, let's give our attention to my good friend Jim. And I think Jim is ready to take us on a field trip so we can meet some of the researchers at Bethel.
Thank you, David. And yes, our researchers take very seriously their task of maintaining a high standard of accuracy.
Veel van wat in de media als feit wordt gepresenteerd, is beïnvloed door emoties en persoonlijke meningen. Maar Jehova's getuigen blijven Gods woord, de Bijbel, verdedigen als de norm voor waarheid. Het is zoals Jezus zei in Johannes 17 vers 17. Uw woord is waarheid. Jehova's getuigen bieden publicaties over allerlei onderwerpen aan. Daarvoor wordt grondige research gedaan door de afdeling Writing Research. Ze gaan te werk als de geschiedschrijvers Lucas en Jeremia. Ze baseren zich op betrouwbare, originele bronnen.
We're not looking just for someone's opinions or what someone believes about a topic.
If the material is socially or politically biased, for example, we can't rely on it. We look for objective material.
We cover everything from historical, scientific, geographical, flora, fauna, space.
So before the script is even written, we'll provide a research package, and we'll follow the project till final delivery to make sure that everything that is said, everything that is shown, is solidly based in fact and it's well researched.
There's a lot more research than what the viewer or the reader will ever see.
You have a one-page article on the otter, you end up with like 12 references to back up every statement that's made.
It seems very simple, the height of Mont Blanc. And with the height of Mont Blanc, we found out number one was 4,807 meters. Then we found another source, 4,810. Let's check a third one, 4,808. So what is now real? In that case, we had to consult the French National Institute of Geography and Forestry information.
One of our main research tools is our own library system. We have about 65,000 books and other research materials.
If we're researching something about ancient history or archaeology, we may consult a specialized encyclopedia, like an encyclopedia of archaeological discoveries, for example.
Museum websites usually have pictures of what they have in the museum, and we can find these visuals and then send those off to production teams as well and say, this is a good example of a first century lamp.
Things that you think are true because they are commonly known may not actually be totally accurate.
Quotes need to be verified. We want to go to the first-hand source, the original source for that quote. That's one thing. And secondly, context matters. We want to quote things properly.
When Gandhi and Lord Irwin came together, Gandhi said, when your country and mine come together on the teachings of Christ and on the Sermon on the Mount, then we will have solved the problems of our countries and the world. So we researched it. No one could confirm that those two men ever met. So it's a great quote. Now, that doesn't mean he didn't refer to Jesus or even the Sermon on the Mount, but that particular one we couldn't use.
So the research work we're doing, sometimes it takes a lot of time, a lot of effort. Sometimes we don't find what we were expecting to find. But it's very gratifying because we're helping produce accurate information that our readers can rely on. Reliable information will help us make good, informed decisions.
Anyone who reads our journal, who sees our videos, can be confident, well, this was thoroughly researched. These are facts. This is the truth.
Dus als je de gedrukte publicaties van Jehovah's Getuigen leest of hun website jw.org bekijkt, kun je er zeker van zijn dat er grondige research is gedaan en dat de informatie betrouwbaar is. Waarom? Omdat Jehovah's Getuigen van de waarheid houden en er respect voor hebben.
As Psalm 31:5 expresses, we worship Jehovah, the God of truth. So it would only make sense that we try to imitate him to the best of our ability by being truthful in all the materials that we publish. He no doubt finds this very pleasing, especially since throughout history, many have tried to twist his teachings. Although the organization makes efforts to publish accurate information, there are many things that we can do as individuals. This dramatization highlights how our view of celebrations can be pleasing to Jehovah.
Hey schat, hoe ging het?
Dit zijn mijn vader en mijn grote broer Dylan.
Hey, we gaan voetballen. Kom je ook?
Nee, bedankt.
Is er iets? Normaal praat hij altijd over school. Vandaag wilde hij niks zeggen.
Vandaag was een van de ergste dagen op school. Het begon vanochtend al. Iedereen zette zijn naam op een kaart voor de verjaardag van Lucas uit onze klas.
Wil jij je naam
Hij
op
was
de kaart
net
zetten?
thuisgekomen uit het ziekenhuis. Hij heeft kanker. Nee, ik ben een Joodse getuige. Ik vier geen verjaardagen.
Wat? Wat? ASO?
Niet zo flauw. Jongens, rustig.
De juf zei dat Lucas misschien nog heel lang thuis moet blijven. Ik vond het heel erg voor hem.
Eden, denk je erover na?
Eigenlijk wilde ik mijn naam wel op de kaart zetten. Lucas is een van de aardigste jongens in de klas. Misschien kan het gewoon. Het is niet hetzelfde als een verjaardagsfeestje.
Hé mannetje, hoe gaat het? Ja? Mam zei dat je een zware dag had gehad.
Ik vertelde mijn vader alles wat er was gebeurd. Ik weet dat het volgens de Bijbel verkeerd is om verjaardagen te vieren. Maar is het echt zo erg om je naam op een kaart te zetten? Papa zei dat het een goede vraag was. Toen liet hij mij een tekst lezen.
Wil je je Bijbel even pakken? Dan lezen we Efeziërs 5.
Efeziërs 5, vers 10. Blijf onderzoeken wat aanvaardbaar is voor de Heer. Hij zei, we moeten allemaal onderzoeken wat aanvaardbaar is voor Jehovah. Want Satan wil ons graag bedriegen. Toen gaf hij het voorbeeld van Aaron. De Israëlieten vroegen Aaron een god voor ze te maken. Maar Aaron maakte dus een gouden kalf. Hij dacht dat het Jehovah kon afbeelden. Toen zei hij, morgen is er een feest voor Jehovah. Maar hij vermengde ware aanbidding met valse aanbidding. En Jehovah was niet blij. Veel mensen werden gestraft. Dat voorbeeld hielp me echt. Ik weet dat verjaardagen verkeerd zijn, omdat de Bijbel leert dat Jehovah ze niet goed vindt. Maar we willen niet als Aaron zijn, die in de war raakte en ware en valse aanbidding vermengde.
We gaan naar mama, kom.
We willen Jehovah blij maken. Papa zei, vraag je altijd af, wat vindt Jehovah ervan als ik dit doe? Mijn naam staat er niet op, maar ik doe iets anders voor Lucas. Mag ik even naar Lucas?
Ja, ga maar jongen. Hij is daar.
Hoe gaat het met je?
Iets beter.
En toen begreep ik dat ik iets veel beters kon doen dan 1 dag vieren. Ik kon Lucas vertellen over onze hoop om eeuwig op aarde te leven, in het paradijs. Dus er zal geen ziekte meer zijn, nooit meer. We zullen huizen bouwen en iedereen zal eten.
I enjoyed seeing how we can show love and concern for others, even if we do not share their beliefs. The best way to do so is by simple acts of kindness and by sharing our hope with them, just as Aiden did. And did you notice how the good training by Aiden's parents helped him make decisions that were pleasing to God? It made me think of Abilio and Ula Amarim from Portugal. Both of them endured difficult childhoods, but they did not allow that to affect how they raised their own children.
desde bastante jovem, também tinha assim uma inclinação bastante religiosa. E então meu sonho era casar com um marido que adorasse a Deus e que adorássemos a Deus juntos e tivéssemos uma vida pacífica, porque os meus pais não era assim. Então muitas vezes tínhamos mais relação com a empregada do que com a mãe.
Então meu pai era uma pessoa distante. O meu pai era muito ocupado com o seu trabalho e os seus amigos. Então nós casámos em 1971, na França, em Paris.
Nós fomos batizados em 1974.
Percebia que não sabia mesmo e apreciei muito. E então comecei a aplicar algumas coisas que a Bíblia fala muito. Ao querer ensiná-los bem, tive que primeiro perceber melhor as coisas, para depois poder explicar de uma maneira como Deus gosta que faça.
Em 1976, mudamos para Portugal para servir onde havia mais necessidade. E nesta altura, o nosso filho mais velho tinha 4 anos e meio, Maria tinha 3 anos e meio e Benjamin 1 ano e meio.
I remember when we arrived, we lived in a rural area.
It was a very small congregation, so we really had to participate from very early age.
They wanted to put, for sure, the spiritual interests first in their life. And they wanted not to only tell us to put the kingdom interests first, but they wanted to show us how to do it.
And it's not only that we sit down for family study, that's when we talk about Jehovah and spiritual things. I remember walking back home from meetings, and then my parents would help us to look for star constellations, start conversation about Jehovah.
Em Deuteronômio, capítulo 6, fala que devemos falar sempre aos filhos, que é bom falar de Deus e tornar Deus uma pessoa real, uma pessoa que está ligado a tudo à nossa volta. Então, agora queria muito ensinar-lhes, e não que as coisas de Deus fossem uma coisa triste, aborrecida, mas alegre.
Of course, we were imperfect. Many times I did wrong things. I never remember you have to do it because you have to do it. They always try to explain the reasons, Bible reasons.
Os meus pais ditavam leis. É assim, tem que ser, tem que fazer, é assim que eu quero. Percebi que Deus, até na Bíblia, em vez de só ditar leis, explica tanto. Ele explica tantas razões. Ele dá razões para tudo. Ao ensinar os meus filhinhos, tenho que dizer que também aprendi muito.
We never felt that we must go to meeting, we must go in service because you have to do it. And we were always motivated to do things.
I remember, for example, when he gave me a new Bible, and he wrote to me in that Bible, "May this book always be the motivating force in your life."
Several times he told me, please never, never give up in your service. Jehovah is your father, and you have to serve him all your life.
E sou todo-poderoso. Tem filhos que não corresponderam. É normal que qualquer pai, qualquer mãe tenha filhos. Deus não força. Deus respeita muito o livre-arbítrio. E por isso nós queríamos é que eles construíssem um futuro por eles mesmos. Eu sempre sentia assim os filhos, como não minha pertença. Eles não são nossos. Foi Jeová que nos pôs nas mãos, por bondade. Fez um voto de confiança em nós, para nós cuidarmos deles e depois os deixar voar.
My parents always encouraged us to pursue full-time service, even if that meant moving far away from home.
My husband and I are serving as field missionaries in Klaipėda, Lithuania. I know I will be grateful for all eternity that I used my youth to serve Jehovah, and I didn't waste my years of young age doing things for this world.
My wife and I serve in the Portugal branch office. If Jehovah is happy, if my parents are happy, I'm happy too. I'm really sure that they like what we are doing. They are happy with that.
Estão a dar o seu melhor para o Criador e sabemos que também faz Jeová feliz e Jeová merece.
Claro que nós sentimos falta dos filhos e gostávamos que fossem mais perto, mas sentimos muito felizes por eles ter o privilégio de servir a Jeová como estão a fazer.
Yes, the truths found in the Bible can provide practical help in raising a family. But although Jehovah has given the responsibility of raising children to the parents, other members of the family can also play an important role in encouraging spiritual progress. These three fleshly sisters looked after one another while learning about Jehovah.
Анх би нэг тусгай эхлэгч ихчтэй хичээл хийж эхэлсэн. Дараа нь би ч бас хичээл хийдэг болсон. Би 1 жил орчим харж агаад хичээл хийсэн. Эцэг ихэд маань нэг их таалагдаагүй болохоор бид гурвал цуглаанд явдаг байлаа. Бид нар ойр зүрийн мөнгөө цуглуулж агаад ирж очихдоо автобусаар явдаг байсан ч мөнгөгүй болчихвол хамгийн багаар нь намайг автобусанд суулгаад эхнэр маань өөрсдөө алхдаг байсан. Алхвал талдаа л ихэд бүтэн нэг цаг. Цуглаан үнэхээр чухал учраас ерөөсөө хэцүү санагдаагүй. Би 2007 оны 5 сард. Би 2006 оны 10 сард. Би 2005 оны 10 сард баптизм хүртсэн. 3 жилийн дараа хөдөө үйлчилдэг нэг тусгай эхлэгчтэй хамт 7 хоногийг өнгөрүүлэхдээ орой болгон хамт залбирч хүмүүсийн намтрыг уншиж ийсэн. Тэгээд би тэр ихчийг Йеhovад үйлчлэх хүслээ хэлж залбирч ийсэн. Хамаатнууд маань дургуутсан ч Йехова тусалж байгааг мэдэрсэн учраас эхлэгч болохоор шийдсэн. Оюуныг хараад би бас эхлэгч болсон шүү. Би гэрээхэндээ туслахаар 7 хоног 6 өдөр ажиллаж исэн ч боломж гарвал эхлэгчээр үйлчлэмээр байгаа яхоо тэл залбирсан. Хэсэг хугацааны дараа 7 хоногт 5 өдөр ажилладаг болоод шууд эхлэгч болсон. Эхлэгчээр үйлчилвэл Йеховагийн төлөө илүү их үйлчилж чаддаг. Йеховатай хамт ажилладаг болохоор яг л нэг гэр бүл юм шиг санагддаг. Залбирхлаар яг найзтайгаа ярьж байгаа юм шиг санагддаг учраас Йеховатай тогтоосон харьцаа илүү бэхждэг. Үйлчлэлээ өргөжүүлэх боломж гардаг. Би 2013 оны 6 сараас тусгай эхлэгчээр үйлчлэх. Би 2013 оны 9 сараас битээлд үйлчлэх. Би 2014 оны 4 сард тусгай эхлэгчийн тавилалт авсан. Йеховад улам их үйлчилж чаддаг болсон. Йеховад талархах сэтгэл гүнзгийрсэн. Ээж маань байнгын эхлэгчээр үйлчилж байна. Бүрэн цагийн үйлчлэл үнэхээр гоё.
Whether we are parents or siblings, applying Bible principles helps us to create a strong family bond. It can also help us before we have children, even before we are married. The world tries to tempt us with deceptive lies about what is important in life. But our own careful research of the Bible can protect and guide us when we are planning a wedding.
Juliana en ik zijn al een paar jaar bevriend. En de afgelopen maanden hebben we elkaar beter leren kennen.
Het ging heel goed tussen ons. Nick vroeg of ik zin had in een picknick in het park. Toen ik zag dat allebei onze families er waren, begon ik iets te vermoeden. En ik heb natuurlijk ja gezegd.
Ik was verbaasd dat ze het niet zag aankomen. We waren allebei heel blij. En al snel wist iedereen het.
De volgende dag waren we in de zaal en iedereen kwam ons feliciteren. En vooral mijn vriendin Natalie zat vol ideeën.
Ik wilde meteen plannen maken.
Ik had me nooit gerealiseerd wat er allemaal bij een bruiloft komt kijken. En iedereen had ideeën over wat we moesten doen. Zelfs mijn vader. We moesten erover nadenken wie we zouden uitnodigen, bloemen en decoratie uitzoeken, een pak voor Nick en natuurlijk de jurk. Het zou allemaal geweldig worden. Tenminste, dat dacht ik. Ik kwam er al snel achter dat er een complete bruiloftsindustrie is. Ze probeerden me te helpen, maar ze moesten natuurlijk ook aan me verdienen. Ze leken bijna geen bescheiden jurken te hebben. En dan de prijs voor iets wat ik maar 1 dag zou dragen. Het was niet te betalen. Iedereen was heel blij voor me, maar van binnen raakte ik behoorlijk gestrest.
Toen we elkaar bij Juliana thuis zagen, was ik verbaasd. Een paar dagen geleden was ze nog zo blij, maar nu was ze heel gestrest. Niemand leek te luisteren naar wat wij wilden. Maar eerlijk gezegd weet ik niet zeker of we zelf wel wisten wat we wilden. Het leek me een goed idee om wat tijd te nemen om erover na te denken hoe een christelijke bruiloft zou moeten zijn. De volgende dag hadden we een gesprek met 2 ouderlingen over de vraag of we de koninkrijkszaal mochten gebruiken voor ons huwelijk. Ze gaven ons wat nuttige raad en daar ben ik heel blij mee. In 1 Korintiërs 10 vers 31 staat: of je nu eet of drinkt of iets anders doet, doe alles tot eer van God. De ouderlingen hielpen ons te begrijpen dat het huwelijk ingesteld is door Jehovah en dat we zijn normen in gedachten moeten houden als we bepalen wat we wel of niet doen.
Toen lieten ze ons 1 Johannes 2 vers 15 en 16 lezen. Heb de wereld niet lief en ook de dingen in de wereld niet. Want alles wat in de wereld is, vleeselijke verlangens, dingen waar de ogen naar verlangen en het pronken met je middelen van bestaan, komt voort uit de wereld. Ze herinnerden ons eraan dat wat in de wereld normaal is, erg verschilt van christelijke normen en dat we een goed voorbeeld kunnen zijn door keuzes te maken waar Jehovah blij mee is.
Ze gaven ons zelfs een paar artikelen mee over bruiloften. Ze wilden graag dat we een fijne dag zouden hebben waar we niet met spijt op zouden terugkijken. Ik vroeg een van de ouderlingen of hij de ceremoniemeester wilde zijn op ons feest. En hij stelde voor om 's avonds samen te eten, zodat we konden overleggen.
Onderweg kwamen we langs een fotozaak. Niet te geloven hoe overdadig en opzichtig sommige bruiloften zijn. Het lijkt vooral een excuus om te feesten, terwijl het een gelegenheid zou moeten zijn om God te eren.
Ik moest denken aan wat in Galaten staat. De werken van het vlees zijn dronkenschap, wilde feesten en dat soort dingen. Zulke dingen wilden we absoluut niet doen. We namen allebei de tijd om na te denken over het materiaal dat de broeders ons gegeven hadden.
We zagen dat Bijbelse principes je zelfs kunnen helpen een bruiloft te plannen die betaalbaar is, waar iedereen van geniet en die Jehovah eert. Maar we moesten wat dingen aanpassen. We konden niet alles doen wat we in eerste instantie wilden. Sommige dingen waren gewoon te duur.
En we wilden er zeker van zijn dat onze keuzes niet de geest van de wereld weerspiegelden.
We besloten opnieuw te beginnen, zodat we er zeker van zouden zijn dat we dingen op Jehovah's manier deden. 1 Timotheüs 2 vers 9 zegt dat christenen gepaste of nette kleding moeten dragen en zich moeten sieren met bescheidenheid en gezond verstand. Het kostte wat moeite, maar het lukte ons om iets te vinden dat betaalbaar, gepast en mooi was.
Ik vond een mooi pak, dat ik ook na de bruiloft kon dragen. En de dames kwamen natuurlijk langs om te kijken of het wel bij elkaar paste. De tijd ging zo snel. Ik belde de ceremoniemeester, zodat hij ons kon helpen om de trouwdag goed te laten verlopen.
Voor we het wisten waren we uitnodigingen aan het versturen en was alles geregeld. Toen mijn vader me die dag weggaf, was ik helemaal gelukkig.
Juliana zag er schitterend uit. En de huwelijksvoltrekking ging perfect. Na al die planning wilden we natuurlijk dat alles ook voor de wet goed geregeld was.
Als we de foto's zien, kunnen we terugkijken op een prachtige dag.
Ik ben heel blij met hoe het allemaal is gegaan. Onze vrienden hadden alles versierd voor de receptie. En ze hadden er echt wat van gemaakt.
Het was perfect, eenvoudig en waardig. Onze vrienden zeiden allemaal dat het een van de mooiste bruiloften was die ze hadden meegemaakt. Het ging allemaal precies zoals we wilden. We bleven zelfs binnen ons budget.
Het belangrijkste is dat we ons huwelijk met Jehovah's hulp goed begonnen zijn.
Ik ben zo blij dat we elkaar gevonden hebben.
Ik ben ook heel blij met jou, schat. En we zullen gelukkig blijven als we Jehovah op de eerste plaats stellen.
The couple's ability to reason on scriptural principles helped them to make the right decisions. Good reasoning ability is an essential quality of a true Christian. But what does it really mean to reason on matters? This morning worship program by Gary Bro will show us.
If you'd open your Bibles to Romans chapter 12 and verse 1, we'll note that the Apostle Paul, as has been commented on, talks about reasoning on matters. That's Romans 12 and verse 1. He says, "Therefore I appeal to you by the compassions of God, brothers, to present your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable to God, a sacred service with your power of reason." So Paul says reasoning has power to it. A synonym for power is influence. And so if you reason something out, you'll be influenced to make the proper decision, basically. Now, he also introduced something else in our text today. Let's go there. It's 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, and we'll read verses 1 and 2. However, brothers, concerning the presence of our Lord Jesus Christ and our being gathered together to him, we ask you not to be quickly shaken from your reason, nor to be alarmed, either by an inspired statement, or by a spoken message, or by a letter appearing to be from us, to the effect that the day of Jehovah is here. So he introduces this aspect of being quickly shaken once you come to a conclusion on a matter after reasoning it out. Now he says, don't be quickly shaken once you come to a conclusion of the matter as a result of reasoning the matter out. And that's what he was telling the Thessalonica congregation here. In the first letter, he had talked about and warned them that Jehovah's day was imminent, that it was coming. And as a result, some of the congregation went beyond that, saying that it was here. In fact, as the verse 2 says, there apparently was even a letter that appeared to be from Paul and saying that it's not that it's coming, Jehovah's day is here. And so some got sidetracked as a result of not thinking it through, and their faith was shaken apparently. And then as you continue, Paul then helped them to reason further that no, there are other things have to happen before Jehovah's day. So we'd like to talk about this matter of quickly being shaken. That is our faith. It's important because we spend years developing a relationship with Jehovah God and developing a solid faith. And just this idea that Paul introduces that one's faith can be quickly shaken is rather a disconcerting thought. It can happen to any of us, really. I just think about Judas Iscariot, right? John 6, verse 64 says, from the beginning, Jesus knew who was the one that would betray him. From the beginning. From the beginning of what? The Insight book says, from the beginning of when Judas started to go bad, started to give in to imperfections and sinful inclinations. Well, how long did that process take? Well, it was less than a year from the time he was appointed as an apostle. And we know his appointment was no mistake. So within that short period of time, this man went from an apostle to an apostate. That's why it's such good counsel that Paul gave for us not to be quickly shaken from matters that we have established as a result of good reasoning. Now, there are times that we're more susceptible to our faith being quickly shaken than others. And I'd like to talk about that just a moment. What could some of those times be? Well, it could be when we're going through stress, depression, or anxiety. The March 1st, 2010 Watchtower makes this comment. Judgment may be clouded when one is under great emotional stress. Now, let me give you an example. Hypothetical, but here's an example. A brother has a deep relationship with his parents. His mother suddenly dies. This is a great emotional blow to him. He slips into a mild depression. And as a result, his personal study and his spiritual activities slow down. Then a short time later, a sibling is disfellowshipped. This crushes him. He can't sleep. He wakes up, he gets to the computer, he turns it on, and he slips into watching something inappropriate. Now, what's just happened? Well, his good reasoning ability was shaken. It's of note to the November 15, 1992 Watchtower puts it this way. Severe and prolonged mental depression may have worn away some of the person's normally strong emotional fiber, or may have made it extremely difficult to make wise decisions. So what could the brother have done? Well, when he first recognized this mild depression or slipping from the spiritual activities, it would have been good for him to get someone to help him identify the cause. Now, what is another circumstance that might quickly shaken our faith if we're not on guard? Well, it has to do with the apostates. Now, there's something that the apostates are talking about and trying to put forward. The media has picked it up. Others have also picked it up. And that is our scriptural position of having two witnesses a requirement for judicial action if there's no confession. Now, if you open your Bibles to Deuteronomy 19:15, our good reasoning is pretty solid on this. In Deuteronomy 19:15, the scripture is very, very clear. It says, no single witness may convict another for any error or any sin that he may commit. On the testimony of two witnesses or on the testimony of three witnesses, the matter should be established. It's very clear, isn't it? You cannot establish a judicial committee based on one witness. But now listen, here's what they say. Well, now look, the Old Testament also says that adulteresses should be stoned. Now, since you're not doing that, why do you stick to this two-witness rule? And see, if you're not careful, that can do some tricks on your mind because you have to think it through. Well, How might we do that? Well, we'll go to Matthew chapter 18 and verse 16, because obviously Christ Jesus established the Christian arrangement. And notice what he said, Matthew 18 and verse 16. He says, but if he does not listen, take along with you one or two more, so that on the testimony of 2 or 3 witnesses, every matter may be established. So Christ Jesus establishes the fact that there has to be 2 witnesses. Now, it doesn't mean that if there's only one witness, that there's no consequences. There might be, depending upon the situation. But the scriptures are very clear. Before a judicial committee can be convened, there has to be a confession or 2 witnesses. So we will never change our scriptural position on that subject. Jehovah has given us the ability to reason things out, to think it through. So let's do our part and not allow our faith to be quickly shaken. Then we can have the confidence that Paul spoke of in 2 Thessalonians 2, verse 5, when he said, may the Lord continue to guide your hearts successfully to the love of God and to the endurance for the Christ.
Even when difficult circumstances arise, such as judicial matters, we cling to our accurate understanding of the Bible. Yes, Jehovah is the God of truth. And our desire for accurate knowledge motivates us to draw ever closer to Jehovah and to learn more about his perfect qualities. Just think of everything we can learn about him when we take the time to study his works of creation. Psalm 104:24 reads, how many your works are, O Jehovah! You have made all of them in wisdom. The earth is full of what you have made. In harmony with that, our music video for this month is entitled, Inspired by Your Wonders.
I hear the birds singing out to the sunrise. I see the stars fading away in the morning light. Golden sun shines on down through the treetops, where there is a summer breeze that whispers so soft. And I sing, oh Jehovah my God, the work of your hands fills us with awe. I stare at the stars, wondering how you care who we are. I see your wonders and I sing to you. I see your wonders and I sing to you. I sing to you. I sing to you. These wondrous, moving, breathing creations. Oh, in the night, in the day, can you hear what they say? From mountain tops to the bottoms of oceans, let every living thing sing out to your praise. I sing, oh Jehovah my God, the work of your hands fills us with awe. I stare at the stars, wondering how you care who we are. I see your wonders and I sing to you. I see your wonders and I sing to you. I sing to you. I sing to you. Looking past what we can see with our eyes. We will come to know more about the one who gave us life. And I sing, oh Jehovah, my God, the work of your hands fills us with awe. I stare at the stars, wondering how you care who we are. I see your wonders and I sing to you. I see your wonders and I sing to you. I see your wonders and I sing to you. I see your wonders and I sing to you. I see your wonders and I sing to you. I sing to you. I sing to you.
When we take time to reflect on the beauties of creation, it becomes clear that there is a higher intelligence who made all these things. Well, David, it's hard to imagine that we've already come to the end of another monthly broadcast.
And Jim, I want to thank you very much for all your help with this program. I really, really appreciate it. Now, before we conclude, we'd like to visit the city of Cusco in Peru, where we have a remote translation office, or RTO.
The city of Cusco is a stopover for travelers to Machu Picchu, a historic sanctuary of the former Inca Empire. Located high up in the mountains, Machu Picchu is an architectural marvel. The design is earthquake-resistant. Giant stones were cut so precisely that in many places, a piece of paper cannot fit in between them. At such high altitudes, you can also see llamas, which are raised in the Andes Mountains. The Inca people spoke Quechua, a language that is spoken by millions of Peruvians today. There has been a translation office in Cusco since 2004, but as the work grew, so did the need for more office space. So in 2016, a new RTO was dedicated. The blessings of the translation work have been evident. Since the Bible Teach Book was released in Quechua in 2007, the number of publishers increased from about 700 to nearly 1,700 last year. In addition to the Watchtower and the Life and Ministry Meeting Workbook, videos are translated at this office, ranging from JW Broadcasting monthly programs to episodes of Become Jehovah's Friend. There are several regions in Peru where Quechua is spoken, all with slightly different dialects and expressions. Hence, each translation team has representatives from these areas in order to ensure that the translation is universally understood among Quechua speakers. Approximately 40 brothers and sisters work at the RTO, of which 15 are full-time. In the Cusco area, there are 28 congregations and 38 groups, with about 2,000 publishers.
We love our brothers and sisters in Cusco very much indeed, and they want you to know how much they love you. Well, until next time, this is JW Broadcasting from the world headquarters of Jehovah's Witnesses.